First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Okay, today is Veterans Day. We really didn't get into that much during the 9 o'clock show, but we're glad to have you, glad to be here. If I think better, I do better. Welcome to the Mental Health Show. Today's guest, let me just say, is a Navy veteran. And a lot of times we take for granted the sacrifices made by those in the military. Without their sacrifices, this country would be without defense. They are our first defenders. I wrote a column, go to bemorenews.com, our mothership, if you will, for my perspective on what it is being a patriot, particularly in today's America, particularly as it relates to the election last Tuesday. A lot of us are licking our wounds, so to speak, but also we are finding our way forward. How do we make sense of what has happened to this country where more than half of the Americans felt more comfortable voting for the elected president as opposed to the one who was running? So without getting into too much detail, let's get on to our guest. Captain, you gonna cut your camera on?
Got it. Got you, sir. How you doing this morning?
Good, good. Now let me give you a little tidbit. On your phone, do you know how to rotate, to click the rotate button? If you click the rotate button and turn your camera sideways, it'll fill up the screen. There you go. Hold tight. No, that ain't quite it.
Can't quite working here.
So again, we have a very special guest today. Okay, we'll just go with this. Oh, you muted yourself, Captain.
Okay, let me get my son to help me here so we can get it on the side.
All right. It's all good. So what does it mean to be a patriot? A patriot is someone who loves their country and someone who is willing to
keep it on. Don't show me. Yeah, I'm waiting.
If you click rotate and then turn it sideways, it should fill up the screen. That's the goal, the end goal here to the Peguese family. And again, welcome to the show. But if not that, Captain, we can go with it as it is.
Yeah, it's not letting me.
For those watching, do check out. We'll just go with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's the best I can do right now.
That'll work.
Okay.
You want to find somewhere to get situated?
Yes, sir.
I know you don't want to hold that camera for an hour.
I do not. There we go. All right. All set now.
Y'all good?
We good. We're good. Thank you.
You gonna set it stationary? That way you ain't gotta hold it.
Yeah. I got some support here. I'm setting
up. So, what year did you go into the Navy?
1985.
1985. My goodness, that's 39 years ago. I know that year very well.
Yes, sir. Ronald Reagan days.
Yeah, I remember here in Baltimore, the number was 666 when he got elected.
Okay. All right.
Lord have mercy. But 1985. And so what made you go into the Navy, the U.S. Navy?
Well, Donnie, what happened was I think I mentioned this on the previous shows. I'm originally from North Carolina. So, a lot of my friends went to college in North Carolina. I chose to take a different path. I was more interested in exploring the world. So rather than going to college, which was something I wasn't interested at the time, I joined the Navy here in Baltimore, in Catonsville, where I live now. And I found myself 2 weeks later in San Diego, California. So, I got exactly what I asked for, and it was one of the best decisions that I made in my life. As a young man, I was able to make that decision, and it worked out well for me.
Well, happy Veterans Day to you. What does Veterans Day mean to you?
What it means to me is honoring those that have sacrificed, those that have dared to, to go into into the forces and risk their life to protect the country. And because when you been out and you travel the world like I have in the Navy and as a merchant marine, you get a chance to visit a lot of different countries. And when you visit those countries, you really, really come to understand how great we have it back here. Despite setbacks we have, it was a great experience, and it really teaches you to really understand the dynamics of not just here in the U.S., but the dynamics around the world, which get pretty tough, in terms of living conditions. I've seen some of the worst in the Philippines and Thailand and other countries that I've had a privilege of traveling to. So that's what it means to me, Donnie, is that, man, we got it so good here, man. And, let's protect that and improve on it and continue to move forward.
For those who may not understand, when you say we have it so good here, can you give me some examples?
Yeah, for example, a lot of the countries that I visited, they didn't have running water. They didn't have any infrastructure whatsoever. And, of course, when you're a military guy and you're out to discover the lay of the land, you get a chance to travel in various cities. You see people, with animals locked up in cages, as was referenced previously, they honestly do eat dogs in some of those countries, and to walk in someone's backyard and see a pet that's hairless being prepared to be dinner is a shock, especially when you grew up enjoying Lassie. It's a real shock. But those are some of the experiences that I had, that I saw while traveling in various countries.
What do the people in other countries, from your experiences, think of us, Americans?
That Donnie, that I kind of witnessed two different philosophies about us. Even I use the Philippines, for example. There was a segment of people in the Philippines that was very reluctant to deal with blacks, especially American blacks, for whatever reason. I know one reason they thought that we were the one that started AIDS when I was over there, And then you had another segment of the Philippines that was extremely friendly. In fact, there were neighborhoods that, consist of blacks that were mixed with Filipinos. And a lot of those, refer to them as war babies because they, were conceived based off the military presence in those particular countries. So, but it was a balance. I was never mistreated in any of those countries. I, had a certain sense of respect. I think that was due to the fact that I was a military veteran. But those were the kind of the two different scenarios that I experienced while I was, traveling abroad.
Major, this takes me back to a conversation I had with a young man in the 90s. He had gone on his first flight. He had used BWI for the very first time.
Okay.
He made a comment that I've never forgotten. He said, there are more white people in the world than black people. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because when you go to the airport, it's just white people everywhere.
Yeah.
In your travels all over the world, do you find that statement to be true?
Donnie, I do not really find that statement to be true.
Of course not. They're more black.
Yes.
I mean, Europe is about that big.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
The continent of Africa has 1.2 billion people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well,
and being the first man on Earth with the oldest DNA, the seeds of Africa populated the world.
Yes.
So it's my understanding that wherever you go, South America, Asia, Europe, the African has already been there.
Yes. Yes. And I tell you, I also had an opportunity to travel to Australia to the would be the east coast of Australia, an area called Fremantle, which was not far from a city called Perth. And at the time, I was in the military, I was in the Navy. I decided to take leave in Perth. And as I was walking downtown Perth, I come to realize really quickly, I said, wait a minute, I'm the only black guy in the whole city. That was a shock to me. It was a shock to have Aborigines come to me and ask me, why is it that blacks in America do not accept them? You know, so you get these shock and awe moments that happen, and it kind of takes you off guard, and you know, you really don't know how to respond to a question like that, you know. But that was a thought process then.
So for those who do not know, what do the Aborigines look like?
Well, skin tone is very similar to us as black folks here. They have more of a presence of the ancient humans, so to speak. You know, the forehead comes out a little, you know, is a little further protruding out, you know, and different hair, texture of hair. But, you know, noses and things that can be very compatible to people here that in our family. And they just, you know, to me, what I felt was that they felt that they were just left behind and that people do not recognize them in a respectful manner. And quite honestly, at that time, Donnie, I didn't know anything about Aborigines. I never knew they existed. Had never read up on it, you know, but, you know, it happened and that was that.
I think the term is a tad misleading. To me, it has a negative connotation. I would just call them the Origines. But
the original.
according to my research,
Mm-hmm.
Australia is one of the first places that the African migrated to, even before Asia. And you being a seafarer, I'm sure, I would imagine you understand that the first seafarers, the first people to build ships, were Africans. Although history doesn't share much of that, unless we're looking for it. If you look at the ancient Egyptians, they had ships. I've even learned that the ancient Egyptians had their own version of an airplane.
Oh, wow. Did not know that.
Like a hang glider.
Okay.
So these Aborigines, and this is so important to us because, as you mentioned, the Aborigines figure that we as African Americans have no knowledge of them. One of the most fascinating collection of photos I've ever found online were that of the people in the Solomon Islands, black people with blonde hair,
yes,
blonde bushes, blonde straight hair. Did you see any of those?
I did not. I did not. And mind you, I was primarily in the city of Perth. I only had an opportunity to go to the Outback once.
Oh, we lost the captain. I'm sure he'll be back. Probably got a phone call. So we're talking with Captain Darwin Peguese. For those who don't know, he is one of the only black tugboat captains here in these United States. And we're talking with him on this 2024 Veterans Day, where we celebrate those who have been in the United States military, who have been in the service, who have served this country, who are patriots even for these United States. My name is Donnie Glover. We thank you for joining the New Life Recovery Show. It's brought to you by New Life Recovery Center. If you're looking for treatment on demand, be it for drugs, be it for alcohol, be it for gambling, do give that number a call at the bottom of the screen or go to that website. Yes, they have treatment on demand 24/7, 7 days a week, run by Mr. Ven McCormick, providing a service right in downtown Baltimore, 100 block of St. Paul Street. So the captain is tuning back in. Bear with us a moment. Let's cut that camera on, Captain. And we're proud of the captain and all of our older brothers and sisters who have been able to successfully navigate this internet. Just cut the camera on. Technology is a beast these days, as you all know. It's a beast for all of us, whether it's using a website, whether it's using a platform like this, or whether it's using social media. Big ups to our seniors. Matter of fact, I had a senior encourage me. He showed me some things. His name was Raymond V. Haysbert. On this Veterans Day, we would like to acknowledge him. God rest his soul. He was the Tuskegee Airman. No, he did not fly planes, but nonetheless, he was in the cadre of those who made history. Just cut that camera on, Captain. There we go.
All right, here we go again.
You got a phone call?
Yeah, I got to turn the phone off.
I understand that concept.
Yeah.
So I want to touch base a little bit, almost a little bit more, as it relates to Australia. Have you learned the history of the indigenous peoples of Australia? Do you know what the British did to them?
No, I'm not familiar with the history there. Never studied it.
They went through as we went through American slavery. They were also dehumanized. They were also slaughtered. They were treated in the most brutal of fashions. In many ways, they underwent, at times, some worse treatment than we've received here in the United States, our ancestors.
Right.
Castrations, gutting. One thing I saw was that, and it was like something out of an ancient Roman movie where they had these hooks that they would throw and they would latch into the backs of these Aboriginal. That and the castrations were some of the most brutal things I've learned about as it relates to what those people went through. And then as the British went in there, at least to my understanding, the British do what the British do. They colonize the land. And so nowadays, many people think Australia is white.
Right.
When the indigenous peoples were just like here, because, and this is something many of us don't know, that there were black people in the Americas long before the 15th, 16th, and 17th century, when slavery was the order of the day. Do you have indigenous blood?
Not that I know of. What about yourself?
Nope. Yeah, my father's grandmother, so my great grandmother was Blackfoot Indian.
Okay.
And then on my mother's side, her father was Puerto Rican, Boricua. So it's possible I got some Taino Indian as well. Mm-hmm. But it's so important to learn this history. Tell me more about your travels. What else did you learn that African Americans should know from your worldwide travels?
I guess one of the things you should know is that the worldwide travels really help you to grow. I've had a chance to travel to North Africa shortly after the time that I, worked in, as a Navy seaman. I became a merchant marine, and those travels took me to places such as Morocco. I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time in Morocco. We were transporting grain from New Orleans to Casablanca, back and forth. So there, I had a chance to really spend a lot of time around, the Muslims. They were a very fascinating culture there in Morocco. Did find there were a number of folks that, African that lived in Morocco. So that was a great experience. A majority of the other countries that I traveled through at the time, working on ships, mostly has been in the South Pacific, not more in the Middle East area. I was based on the West Coast, so of course the Asian Pacific area was opportunities that we had to travel.
Would you agree that those countries, America is one of the youngest countries on earth, that those countries have a culture that is more communal, where America may be more focused on the individualism?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, America is definitely focused more on individualism than those countries. The countries that I'm talking about the entire system seemed to operate more as an entire team. Whereas here in the United States, it's quite different. It's about the individuals. So that was very, very noticeable in terms of the culture there and how they work together, how they live together, how they maintain under very difficult conditions on a day-to-day basis. But you never really see, folks complaining. You don't see issues of outbreaks of violence and things of that sort. So their whole entire take on life is much different than the take that I think a majority of Americans have here in our country, especially as black Americans.
As Black Americans, would you say that we have culture?
Yeah, I say we have culture, but is it the right culture? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's many different types of cultures. There's some that I feel that work well for me as a black man living here in the United States, and then there are other cultures that I can see amongst ourselves that I don't necessarily think works out for the best interests of us as a people. So it's kind of, I guess, divided, you could say, not only in America but in terms of our own community. I believe that we are somewhat divided.
Did you experience racism in the Navy?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't as pronounced. It wasn't. It wasn't like folks was going around using derogatory terms toward me, but just the manner that the way, especially the officers, the white officers in the Navy would address you and how they would deal with some of my black superiors. They were very disrespectful. They made sure that the men understood that the white man was in charge, and we weren't. We were there as a supporting cast, but in terms of having any true respect, they didn't have it for us. We had to kind of band together as black men, and we worked together, and we learned over time, and there was enough seasoned military enlisted men that I was surrounded by that kind of drew me in and kind of guided me the right way. So without those guys, I probably would not have made it through the military as seamless as I did. But, a lot of the men that I met that were 10, 15, 20 years older than I was, Donnie, a lot of those men had no choice but to join the Navy. It worked out well for them in terms of a lifestyle, gave them a good living, and they were able to raise a family. But a lot of those men were in the prison system. And years ago, the judges would give men an option. They'd tell them, I find you guilty. You got two doors. There's a recruiter on this side of the courtroom, and there's a probation officer on the other side. So you choose which door you want. And that actually used to happen, from what I understand. For the betterment of our community and black men, it really gave guys a shot at whatever they wanted to do. Those opportunities didn't exist like that anymore. Now it's about the score of the test. The average young black man, let's say in Baltimore City, probably couldn't get in the Navy if he wanted to get in the Navy these days. So not having the Navy and having the ability for any young man who wants to serve, can serve, I think our country is going to continue to go down the wrong path. Because I was one of those kids who didn't know what to do, didn't know what I was going to do, could have very easily fell into the drug system. But because the Navy gave me a shot and gave me an opportunity to join, that was the shot I needed in life. It worked for me.
And that's a great segue. Let's just acknowledge while you're here on the screen, I want to make sure you hear it. You're one of the only black tugboat captains in the United States.
That's correct. Especially that owns a tugboat company, We're gearing up right now. We've been in touch with the contractor for the Key Bridge, and we're gearing up to show them and kind of flex our muscle in terms of the capabilities we have. And we're going to, show Baltimore what black men can really do, given the right opportunity.
One of the things that we have covered intentionally over the past 22 years is minority business enterprise.
Yes.
And while you and I both know that internationally, globally, of course, we're not a minority, but here in the United States, we fall under that category. Any thoughts on minority business enterprise?
I don't particularly like the title, Donnie.
Neither do I.
I don't like the title. I mean, I do what I do. I enjoy what I do. I take pride in what I do. And being labeled as a minority, or when I go to meetings, the white company say, "Hey, here's Darwin. We brought our minority with us. This is our minority for the project." I don't like that. And they found out here real quickly that's not the way to address me. I'm not. That's not how it goes. I'm a man that has the responsibility of carrying out a certain task, and I intend on doing that to my best ability. But
One,
don't classify me like that, because I don't particularly care.
one of the things I've learned is that when it comes to minority business enterprise, is that quite often a segment of that demographic is white women.
Yes,
And some of those white women are no more than fronts for their husbands.
that's exactly how the system's designed, Donnie.
So here's a
Absolutely.
program that was originally designed to level the playing field for Black people now has white women, Latinos, and any other ethnic group. I heard a woman say last week that she is done with the POC label. That's people of color. She was like, damn all of that. You done shown us that you won't support a Black woman for president. And so don't ask us to support any of your damn causes from A to Z. Did the election last week reveal anything to you that you didn't know about Black people in America?
It did, Donnie, but I'd rather not say.
Okay.
I think I keep that one to myself. But yes,
Yeah.
it did reveal quite a bit, and it also revealed many concerns. Moving forward, as this political climate continue to change, you have to be able to adapt to both sides, especially when you're in an industry like I am. 99.9%, white male. As we spoke about this before, yes, it is a somewhat hostile environment. It can go from 0 to 60 real quick. So, I've learned to adapt, and, I have to continue to do that in an effort just to remain in this industry. So, you got to kind of be able to adapt and continue to move forward.
I want to commend you, Captain. I don't know what you're doing on December the 5th, but we'd love you to be one of our Black Wall Street honorees.
Okay.
It's a Thursday. We'll be in downtown Baltimore.
Okay.
And it's our annual fundraiser. We celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them, regardless of race. As a matter of fact, I'll put the details here below. And let me tell you why. Because knowing that you are quite often, there it is, the Black Wall Street Soiree, December the 5th, considering that you are quite often the only Black person in the room, it is important that we recognize you. I mean, how significant is it being one of the only Black tugboat captains in the U.S.? I mean, that's a blessing, isn't it?
Donnie, I look at it as just what I do. I don't see anything magnificent about what I've done other than follow the path and the dreams that I sought for myself. People tell me that, oh, it's a special, accomplishment. And like I said, while I appreciate that, I just do what I do, man. If I make up my mind, even though the white men discouraged me in the Navy about doing anything other than a trade that has to do with labor, that's going to create bone spurs in my back, when I'm 60. I overcame that. I overcame that because I always felt like I could do the job better than they could. And in some senses, I demonstrated that over the time to the point where I realized, doing 20 years in the Navy wasn't for me. But my captain that I was working for at the time did tell me, he said, Peguese, I think you have something special to offer the world. I wouldn't recommend you to rejoin this man's Navy. He said, you looking to be in charge. You should go out and do your own thing. And that's what I did. You know,
Was this, I'm sorry.
I said, go ahead.
Was it scary?
No, no, no. Yeah, you know, I was a adventurous type kid anyway. You know, I was a type of kid when I was young, man, I would disappear and go out in the woods. And I'd be out in the woods hanging out with my friends all day long, whether we building tree houses or building some type of structure. You know, we were always involved in dreaming. And we were able to carry out those dreams in our own time and own place. And that kind of helped me to understand that there wasn't much out there I couldn't do. All you had to do is teach me.
How was it growing up in North Carolina? Did you experience segregation as a child?
Donnie, it was white people and black people at that time. That was it. There was no in between. There was no. It was none of what you see now, of course. But we knew where our side of town was, and we knew where the white side of town was. I never encountered any type of aggressive actions or fights or anything like that happened in a little small town. It's just that everyone really just got along. You know, even on the white side. You know, because my grandmother had worked for a lot of those white families over the years, whether she was cleaning for them or sewing for them, whatever the case may be. But they really had a infinity for my grandmother because she was kind to them. And, you know, black people are kind-hearted people, and she just made an impression on people. And you know, me growing up around my grandmother taught me how to make an impression on people. And that's kind of how I live today. You know, that's what I teach my kids.
And that's also what you teach young people who you want to see eventually become tugboat captains.
Absolutely.
Also.
Absolutely, Donnie. And you know, when with this job starting up on the Key Bridge, rebuild a Key Bridge, you know, I'm going to make sure personally that some of our youth get involved and have an opportunity to be able to capture those opportunities that's going to serve them for many years down the road. So I'm trying to get a fire started here, Donnie.
This is tens of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in contracts, and you're trying to help provide opportunities for our young people. How that thought crossed your mind?
Because it just happened to be one of those industries, Donnie. You got to get out there and do it. There's not a book, there's not a class, there's not a seminar that you can send a young man or a young woman to grasp those opportunities. You got to jump in. You know, it's just like, you know, decided to jump off a cliff into a lake or something. You know, you just got to go sometime and, you know that things going to be okay. And that's the same philosophy you got to take with people that you train in this industry, because they got to understand the dynamics of it. You know, the risk, the rewards, understanding the language of people from different parts of the country. You know, sometimes you have to work with people from Louisiana. Louisiana is really big in the maritime because of the oil fields. Well, you got a lot of people that speak French. You got a lot of people that speak various languages. You know, you have to be able to adjust to that as well. You know, so it just offers so much for you to learn in the maritime industry that it's just ridiculous. Because a lot of kids, young kids, of tugboat owners has been in Baltimore for 100 years. Their kids and grandkids benefited from those companies operating in Baltimore Harbor by giving their kids the opportunity to have the experience to work on a boat, to be around different people from different part of the country, to be able to travel, you know, different places around the United States, see what it's like, you know. So I'm a fundamental believer, Donnie, that the city of Baltimore, for example, should start somewhat encouraging the youth to not to continue to depend on Baltimore City for their well-being. You know, and that's what the marine industry does. It gives them a shot to go somewhere else. Baltimore City, although you grew up there and you know your family's there, it may not be the place where you're gonna blossom. It may be California, it may be overseas, but once you get that merchant marine document from working on my boats, you can take that document, you can go anywhere around the world and it's recognized. That's the advantage of the maritime industry and the opportunities that it brings to people, if you have a chance to get in there. It's a club.
My friend Dr. David Miller says it like this: life is bigger than a chicken box, a jumbo half and half, and a trip to Mondawmin Mall.
Okay.
We find we live in a city where people in East Baltimore, many people in East Baltimore don't leave East Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even go to West Baltimore. And the same is true here on the West Side.
Right.
Or we haven't been to DC. I've met people in Washington, DC who've never been to the White House. This news outlet, we've been to the White House 65 times or so, but it's always a joy when I get to take a native Washingtonian inside the White House.
Sure.
I imagine you've seen some famous places around the world in your travels, and you want our young people to know that there's a beautiful world out there.
There's a wonderful world out there. Wonderful world. You know, you just have an opportunity to visually see things. You know, just the fact that I think one of the first major sites that I saw was the ability. I was in the Navy, and our ship was anchored outside of Maui, and it happened to be during the time of the year, Donnie, when the humpback whales are doing their thing, when they're dancing and coming up out of the water. It was one of the most amazing sights I had ever seen. You know, just little things like that. You know, where you say, oh, well, that's actually real. That's happening because I'm seeing it right here with my own eyes. That's a big deal. It's one of the wonders of the world, you know, one of the great wonders.
So how long is this training program? How can we get young people to you? What do we need to do? Put a phone number out there, a website, an email? What do you prefer?
Well, Donnie, I'm working through a gentleman. I'm not going to call his name, but he's he once was a professional baseball player. You know, how should I put it? When I look at my industry, I also think of baseball, because my industry itself and the type of work that we do is an industry where it's built to fail. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is that failing is okay. Failing is great. It's what you're going to do after you fail. It's what's going to determine how far you go. That's a true statement.
Mike Tyson said it like this: everybody's got a plan until they get hit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or another way is fall down 7 times, get up 8. I've learned that you can fall 2 million times, but if you have the audacity to stand up 2,000,001 times, you're a winner.
Yes. Yes. And that's how I view my efforts in my business. I had a white man that once told me something that have stuck with me now, got to be 40 years. And it was based off my complaint of not getting what I wanted in the time frame I wanted to happen. So what this man told me was, he said, well, Darwin, I encourage you to never quit. He said, and always remember, the more time you hear the word no, the closer you are to a yes.
He flipped that perspective.
Yes. The more times you hear no, the word no you can't, no you won't, no I will not, you come that much closer to a yes. So why stop and turn the clock back and start over with something else when you continue on your path to what you're doing? Then just be patient. And that's what I had to do with my business.
Are you a grateful person?
I am, very.
How so?
Well, let me say, I'm a grateful person, and I'm a prideful type person, Donnie. And I'm going to date back a little bit to kind of give you a little bit of that flavor from years back. When I as you know, growing up in North Carolina.
We're talking with Captain Darwin Peguese. He probably got another phone call. He's one of the only Black tugboat captains in these United States, and he's very interested in grooming our young people to also join his industry. He's willing to train them beginning here in Baltimore City. And so if you give me a call, 443-858-2684, I will put you in direct communication with him. He's getting his program together as we speak to make sure the young people in Baltimore have an opportunity. But I will put my number out there if you are trying to get in touch with the captain, and I'll make sure you get in touch with him directly. I think one of the things I appreciate most about him is that he's willing to open up his opportunities for other people, and he doesn't have to do that. In this day and time, we live in a day and time where not many people are willing to share opportunities. Why are you willing to share opportunities with others, Captain?
Because I can't live forever. I got it. You got to pass it on to somebody, man. The Egyptians tried that. It didn't work out well, did it? You can't take it with you. And you know, aside from that, I know the struggles that it would be for someone else that looks like me to navigate through this industry, being that it's as hostile as it is. So that's why it's important that I take the lead on it. I train my people. I give them the opportunities. I show them the way, and build up my own pool of qualified personnel right here in Baltimore City.
So look here. I put this phone number out there for anybody that wants to get in. I guess I should put my face to it. They can call me and I'll put them in direct contact. Do you have a phone number you'd rather put out there, or how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I would prefer to use my personal email address, Donnie. If you can put that out there, that would be much better, because you know, one important thing that we have to do is that, you know, we like to vet people. We like to know where they stand. You know, who they are internally, and you know, it doesn't take but a short conversation to really understand where someone's coming from. But I will say, you know, as long as the individual, you know, is honest, has integrity, can take criticism, sometimes constructive criticism. You know, you're in an environment on the boat where your life is at risk, and it's important that people. It's important that people trust you, and it's important that you trust the other person. So we just have to, you know, make sure we have the right people that has the right goal in mind, that's looking to do the right thing for the right reason. That's what's key.
So it's cdred65@gmail, right?
Yes, it is. And if they could explain, you know, why would you want this opportunity? What would this opportunity to become, to learn a trade, working on the water as a mariner? What would that do to help improve your life? What would that do for you?
And if I'm not mistaken, you've gotten your sons involved.
Yes. One administratively, and the other one is out on the West Coast in Oregon now. He's coming back to take some training before this work starts here in Baltimore. But I plan to put it full front and center, and hopefully that get not just. I'm not talking about anything about white people. It's, you know, I found, Donnie, that our own people don't believe that we can do this type of work. People that look like me don't believe that we can do it. They've been convinced that no black man has no business out in that water. They've convinced people. I've heard them. It's not very helpful, but that's okay. With that bridge, got to go back up. We got a plan.
You know, I saw a post the other day and it said, some of y'all are descendants of the people who snitched on runaways.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's a strong statement. Hey,
some of y'all are descendants of those who snitched on runaways.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are descendants of people Harriet Tubman had to pull that Colt 45 out on.
Yes, sir.
Because they were jeopardizing the mission.
Yes, gonna take the whole ship down, everyone out on it. I get it. You can't allow anyone to take the ship down, man. Can't allow
Makes
it to
you
happen.
think of what is it, Juneteenth? Those were people who found out slavery was over 3 years after it was over. So just a reminder of how we need each other. People in Texas, LA, Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
We all need each other. And if anything, this last election has shown me that we got to work harder than ever to come together. And so I commend you for creating this opportunity. I heard a preacher say once, you know you have the Holy Spirit when you help empower others.
Yes.
Like right now,
Absolutely.
not to throw anybody under the bus, but we got more Black elected officials in Maryland, percentage-wise, than most anywhere in the country.
Yes.
But it means nothing if we're not getting you a contract at that Bay Bridge.
Absolutely. 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 Because it's going to benefit not just me and my company. It's going to do a lot, in terms of getting our kids in the city to dream about doing other things than what they're doing now, which is not beneficial to us in any way whatsoever. It hurts me every day when I turn the news on. I know there's a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old young man that has lost his life. And I immediately start thinking like, wow, if I could get the right platform that I need to get these opportunities, because look, there's another branch of the military called Military Sea Lift Command. Donnie, have you heard of them?
Military
Sea Lift Command.
Sea Lift Command. I have not.
Okay, you can look it up. Well, Military Sea Lift Command is basically the system that the United States government has set up to support our military, and especially in cases of war. If you go downtown Baltimore, you see two gigantic gray ships that's been berthed and parked in Baltimore City forever. I've worked on those type of ships before down in Louisiana. They're fast ready ships that's ready to load up tanks, military equipment, boom, and off they go at a minute's notice. Okay? Well, the Military Sea Lift Command are civil service type jobs. And they have a division that hires youth and trained youth throughout the country. And they have these job fairs. I've never seen them come to Baltimore. Amazing. They used to be based in DC, now they out of Norfolk, and they have a group that goes around the country offering these opportunities. Where our elected officials need Military Sea Lift Command to come to Baltimore to find some of the wonderful talent that we have here that just haven't been discovered yet. But I'm saying that to say, from what I read on the rules the other night, even previously incarcerated individuals can still go to work for Military Sea Lift Command and get their federal documents. As long as they haven't served more than 3 consecutive years incarcerated, they're eligible to go into this program. Why aren't our elected officials that vote in Congress to fund these programs not telling people in our city that these opportunities are available? Whether you've had some minor infractions with the law or what, it doesn't, there's a solution to everything. I mean, you at least got to try. So I'm going to get that information done and get it to you.
There you go.
And you can share
Sea Lift
that.
Command jobs, sealiftcommand.com. Advance your career further with job security, training, and advancement opportunities. Pursue professional advancement opportunities with confidence in your abilities. We live in a port city, and you would figure that this type of information, thank you for sharing this, you would figure this type of information is widely known. You would also think that being Baltimore is a port city, as highlighted by the collapse of the Bay Bridge, that we would have more maritime emphasis here in the city of Baltimore on jobs, working on the shipyard.
Well, guess what that's about, Mr. Glover?
Yeah, the white boys don't want you down there.
They don't want me down there. And that's why none of those companies down there have groomed any local young man and young woman from Baltimore. They've made no effort. They've been there for 103 years.
So it's up to us to go out there and take advantage of the opportunities. Because as you started this show off, having traveled all over the world, despite the foolishness and the hatred and the bigotry, the violence, the terrorism and the trauma, you said this is still the greatest nation on earth. That makes you a patriot. That makes you a true patriot.
Beyond a doubt. But I believe that to the day I die. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I encourage our young folks to explore Military Sea Lift Command. because now with the war brewing over in the Middle East, depending on how it turns out, that could set things off really quick. And those jobs are going to be very, very plentiful because it used to be, and we spoke about this before, Donnie, it used to be if you weren't married to someone or had a relative, you couldn't really get into the maritime industry, especially for good paying jobs. Now, call what nepotism. But now it's a whole different situation. That generation have died off. And the young kids, these men, kids and grandkids, they don't want any part of this industry like their grandfather did or their dad or guys my age did. Now is a perfect opportunity for folks to embrace that industry and find out what it can do for you. Because they have, if you look on that website, they have entry-level jobs. If you like cooking, they can send you down to Seafarers International Union, which is located in Southern Maryland. They have a training program there and have their own boot camp set up. That's down in Piney Point, Maryland, called Seafarers International Union. They train people. They have a culinary school down there. These ships that goes out to sea with the military on it as support, they have bakers, they have cooks, they have people that are professional culinary type people. Those are great jobs. You on a ship, you got free room and board for periods of time, for months at a time. You ain't got to pay a dime. You basically pocketing all your money. And that was one of the great things I loved about being a seaman, Donnie, is that when I would go to port, I have $10,000 in the kitty, or 15 grand. If I become a little bit more conservative, I do 2 or 3 months, 4 months, come back with 30, 40 grand in my pocket. Ship back out when I wanted to. That's the freedom that you have when you engage in the maritime industry. It pays.
I'm getting ready to put up something that's going to blow people's mind. Entry level. Just to get in the door. Just going in the door. Entry level. 65 grand.
HVAC techs, they need those men on the ships too,
Them jobs are 100,000.
Yes.
We've been doing it all wrong.
The one man that had caught on to what was going on and looked at me and said, Captain, these boys been lying to me, was Congressman Elijah Cummings. I spoke to him on the Capitol floor. And he said, well, Captain, tell me if this is the truth. I said, no, sir, they've been lying to you. And, upon his passing, that was kind of it. I didn't engage anyone else because I didn't have anyone else to go to, because I didn't see anyone really pick up from where he left on that particular issue. But men like him, the late Donald Payne out of New Jersey, they went to bat for us. They did the best they could with what they had, while they had the time they had left on this earth. But none of the new wave politicians, I haven't heard anything.
Now look, this is on student loan repayment. Give them an opportunity to apply for up to $10,000 a year for qualified student loan repayments for a maximum amount of 60 grand. Loan repayment. You're a bad man, Captain. Any final thoughts before we get up out of here, Captain? I'm so glad we brought you on today.
Well, thanks, Donnie. I appreciate you calling me up, man. I'd do anything in the world for you, man. You called up and, we talked, and I said I'd be happy to come on. There's always got something to share.
Veterans Day.
Yes, sir.
Give us some final words for any veterans out there.
Final word, hey, keep living to be great and do what you do and, keep moving forward. Don't stop.
Okay, and again, anybody looking to get in touch with you, they can send you an email to cdredge65@gmail.com.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Thank you to you, and also thank you to your family for sharing you with us at this time, Captain. You have a beautiful day.
Okay, Donnie, you too. Thanks for inviting me. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. You've been watching the New Life Recovery Show, where if I think better, I do better. Employment opportunities. Here in the city of Baltimore, this man is one of the only black tugboat captains in the entire United States. You can't beat that. And he's bringing opportunities. I mean, look at this. Check, if you need a job, check out this website, sealiftcommand.com. Sealiftcommand, C-S-E-A, lift, L-I-F-T, sealiftcommand.com. I mean, I saw jobs when they're starting at 65 with a little training, 100 grand a year, student loan repayment, right here on the New Life Recovery Show. My name's Donnie Glover. We'll be back Wednesday at 12 noon. If you want to be on this show, do check us out. Come on, give me an email. You just call me. I put my phone number out there earlier. I have no problem with that. Give me a call. If you provide treatment, counseling, if you have internship programs, employment opportunities, we deal with mental health, mentally, physically, spiritually, economically, politically, all of that. It has to do with our mental health. If I think right, I do right. My name's Donnie Glover. See you next time. Good afternoon, world.